Welcome, my 362 subscribers, everyone who still thinks AEW Con is better than ROH Con, everyone who's excited for the announcement of AEW Collision next week, which is probably going to be a Forbidden Door TV show, and maybe it's going to lessen the value of Forbidden Door, and everyone who's going to watch Super Card of Honor later when this video gets uploaded. Welcome to my review of AEW Dynamite for the March 29, 2023 show. Give the video a like, comment your thoughts, share if you don't know me, hit that bell notification for future videos, and let's begin. So AEW's ratings went down to 833, and I'm gonna put this more on Tony Khan, since, number one, he booked two matches that have no right being on the Dynamite, especially the opener that I'm going to talk about after this, and Orange versus Butcher. The women's feud is coasting, and Omega is not the main event. I'm also going to put some blame on Lakers versus Bulls, as well as Warriors versus Mavs, since we have basically number 2 and number 3 markets of the NBA, as well as number 7 versus number 5. Especially being mid-table, since their playoff contention matters more game by game. If a team is on top, why would you care to watch if you know they're going to make the playoffs? The mid-table teams in a playoff system are more fun. Unlike in football in the Premier League, where the winner is the winner of the season and the next 6 teams get consolation prizes. It's more engaging to watch that. And in that department, it's sadly Arsenal. So yeah, for the first match of the show, we have Jungle Boy Jack Perry versus Matt Hardy. So when I did my predictions for this week, I totally forgot about this match. This didn't even register for me. Since of all people you have in your roster, why have Matt Hardy wrestle a singles match of all things? Since he's been having trouble moving around. If you wanted to have this, have it in the middle of the show. Not at the opener when you have to establish a 1 million watcher mark. The match was fun, it was decent, but decent is not gonna get you a million. Especially against those NBA games. And I don't appreciate Hobbs not being on the show. Your TNT champion. I don't know what's happening. It's like Tony Khan is sabotaging himself so that ROH Khan can beat AEW Khan. It's so confusing. But yeah, for the match itself, Jungle Boy versus Matt Hardy. It's incredibly run-of-the-mill, with Jungle Boy having to pick up the slack for Matt. This is a Ruthless Aggression TV match or an ECW original match on Impact. It's almost if it wasn't for Jungle Boy being in the world title feud, this would be a black hole of TV time that you put to open the show. You could see the degradation of Matt's mobility and wrestling skill, still fundamentally sound, but he shouldn't be exposed this much. His time has passed. I think he should stick to tag matches from now on. Story of the match is that Hardy doesn't want to cheat, but his manager cheats for him. It's pretty fun, the story's nice, but this needed to be exciting and not slow story. And this is one of the challengers for the world title. You should be showcasing his skills. This should have been against someone higher up on the card. Maybe bring someone from Ring of Honor like Jalistica or something. Top 2 spots of the match is number 2 is the Superplex. That was a struggle for Hardy, but it landed pretty well. And number 1 spot is the side effect to the floor. So the finish is a poor man's hidden blade for the win. I like the snare trap more, or something else that's not the hidden blade. Oh yeah, and Ethan Page and Hook fight, setting up their match, where I hope Hook finally loses, since that's Ethan Page, who's another young talent you're trying to push. So post-match is, I think, what should have opened the show. This was a great promo segment, as usual, from MJF, as well as Jungle Boy. It's not a bombacious one, a burn-filled thing that we're used to with MJF. Instead, it's more content heavy. It's work shooty but deep, and then it puts over Jungle Boy pretty well. So MJF doesn't do the low-hanging fruit thing. He just goes at Jungle Boy from the start. He does it in a pretty interesting way, with the main topic being nice guys finish last, because he sets up Jungle Boy I think twice. Like, all your hard working, it goes up the mountain, and then it goes back down because MJF did less, achieved more. It's an Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton sort of situation. He builds him up again by saying, "You were a worthy opponent in Double or Nothing 2020. I shook your hand, it goes even higher." And then it drops straight back down by, "You should have left your friends if you wanted to be world champion. We could have been something." This teases like an alliance between them. He even like buries Jack's friends by saying like, "Dino douchebag," terrible line. Marco stunted growth, which got a reaction. Amazing line. And then I guess Christian Cage is okay. This felt like MJF putting someone over. And it's a nice setup for a simple counter that hits MJF to the core from Jungle Boy. Because Jungle Boy replies in his like usual like vanilla sort of babyface way that he does. "I ain't gonna take a shortcut. I'm gonna continue to work hard." But when he raises his voice, that's like his best promo thing right now. That's his kind of like only thing that he has right now, but it's like really good. He gets the crowd to like side with him, which is unexpected, especially if you have MJF there. The crowd chant "piece of shit" with Jungle Boy. And then cherry on top is the line, "I won't wake up every day and hate the person I see on the mirror," which is basically what MJF is. This shakes him up to the core, and then like it hits a nerve. Never has a promo like triggered MJF this hard that it made him go back to the low-hanging fruit just to make him feel good about himself. But at this point, it's just like pitiful. He lost the promo battle and put over Jungle Boy. Like something that CM Punk doesn't usually do. I forgot when's the last time where he like cut a great promo in order to benefit someone else. Like to purposely lose a talking fight. MJF set Jungle Boy up for the win. This triggers a fight, and then MJF loses, Jungle Boy comes out on top. This like elevates him to the upper mid card in my eyes. Great segment, but will it be segment of the night? Most likely, but we will see. So after this is what I think comes in close. This is number 2 best segment because they don't make it seem like replays don't exist and YouTube doesn't exist. They don't make the talent look stupid because Don Callis like gets closer to the truth when describing the events of last week. It's less Hangman was trying to maliciously attack me because that's out of character. I think Kenny knows Hangman more than that. It's much more Hangman accidentally attacked me, but Kenny, why would you assume the worst about your former friend? Yeah, that's pretty much what I got from this. There's more underneath the surface, and this connects to the other segment that happens later on in the show, which is Don Callis confronting Hangman Page. And in this one, it looks like Callis is going to like make peace with Hangman, but BCC attacked them. This points to a Don Callis joining BCC at the start, but when he gets attacked, it still kind of felt like he was going to join BCC. Like it could have been like an in-universe worked attack. But when he like bleeds, like accidentally falls on this like base of like a light, he gets cut open real bad, and there is no way that after that it would make sense that Don Callis joins the BCC unless he's just insane. Just like the BCC are, pretty much. This was a cool segment that got us the meme of Claudio Callis, or like that Claudio Castagnoli Don Callis mix. And it also pushes like BCC achieving the mission statement. They are in their purest form, like what William Regal envisioned, violence incarnate. So yeah, after this is BCC versus Dalton Castle. So yeah, this actually happens before. Like that whole attack happened, but in this one I was so disappointed because instead of giving time for this match to like feature a Ring of Honor talent who is like, I think fits more in AEW, in Dalton Castle and the boys, but instead they get squashed, and I'm alright with them getting squashed since that's how the team is constructed. Dalton Castle can be protected forever since he has 2 sacrificial lambs. It's two snotlings and one ogre. And Dalton held his own against Mox outside. But to like reintroduce them as this, like them being a fun team and then just like squashing them on their first appearance, I think in a long time, I think this was a bad move. I think they should have just had a match for like 8 minutes instead of what we got later with Orange and the Butcher. So yeah, another set of ROH talent gets like destroyed in AEW. But yeah, real talk, Dalton needs to get TV time, even if it's a Rampage. So after this is like a recap video of Kenny versus Vikingo, and then the small build for Kenny versus Cobb. And there is like much more build here between Kenny and Cobb since January. We had a promo by Kenny after like a multi-man match against United Empire where him and Cobb face off. And this was just reignited just recently, like not even a full week before. It was like the Vikingo feud, but it had 2 more shows of build outside the company. And it's pretty simple. It's a New Japan feud that's shown to American fans, and it'll help New Japan by featuring their Polynesian talent on TV. Like, who's next? Jay White, Hikuleo, Tamatonga, like just anyone. Even Toa Henare would be cool. But who am I kidding? Jay White's not going to show up. So surprisingly, Kenny Omega versus Jeff Cobb doesn't main event. And this was a poor choice because we saw last week that if you put Kenny Omega in the main event, there will be like less of a drop off, will flatten out, or maybe like will gain some like returning viewers at the end of the show. Because the graph looks so terrible this week. The drop off was so great for that Adam Cole match. That was just alright. Kenny should main event Dynamite every week. It's either Kenny or Danielson. Or MJF. We even have this like pre-match, like super main eventy thing where Kenny's told that Callis has been attacked and he's not going into the match 100%. Like, not only mentally, but he also has taped up ribs. And like the post-match for this is so very much like a main eventy segment. It's such like a world-changing event in AEW. It's like an Avengers level crisis or an Eclipse level event in Berserk. That's how amazing the post-match segment was. And it's in the middle of the show. So the match itself is a battle between power and skill. That's more storyteller than show stealer from last week. There's more selling, like especially because of Kenny's ribs. Because like one simple like soft tap from Cobb and Kenny just falls over. Those ribs are super tender on palpation. There wasn't enough working on the ribs though. We only have like one big submission, but I don't think that's Jeff Cobb's thing. But it wouldn't have hurt for Cobb to do like an abdominal stretch or like this like reverse bear hug on the floor that like is sort of a keep away from the rope sort of spot. There was also like too much striking from Jeff and not enough power moves as like someone like Jeff should do. Because when seeing these two in the ring, Kenny's taller and Jeff is just a little bit thicker. It's not that convincing, and what could have made it more convincing is if Cobb hit more powerful moves. I think a Michael Elgin versus Kenny Omega sort of dynamic would have done this match wonders. There was some cool heel work, but I don't think it's enough. The best heel work is Cobb puppeteering Omega. This was a nice spot, but this started this sort of really slow portion of the match that I didn't like. I mean, it's better than last week's slow portion, but last week's match made up for it with like craziness from Vikingo. The slow portions of this just made it more American wrestling more than New Japan. Because it was built as a New Japan match. This is for their mid-card title, and Kenny came into his New Japan theme. So top spots of the match, number 3 is the bear hug. Number 2 is the Kenny one-winged angel attempt, where he fails since he sells his ribs. And then number 1 is the superplex struggle that Jeff wins, but it's the fastest they work this entire match. Finish is a V-trigger, one-winged angel for the win. Kenny Omega wins. So this is a TV main event, pay-per-view undercard match. Nothing unique. It leans more American than Japanese wrestling. Bit of false advertising. But it's a well-worked, well-sold match. But what stole the show was what came after, and I think this is going to be segment of the night. Because BCC circled the ring like sharks, Kenny Omega's selling the shit out of his injuries and the match like he can barely even stand. He swings his title pitifully to defend himself. But as BCC are going for the kill, Bryan Danielson shows up and then saves Kenny Omega. He waves off his boys and offers the hand of support to Kenny. I thought this was the perfect way to keep Danielson face. I thought it would have been cool to have him feud with BCC in a sort of power struggle, a civil war. But I realized that this is exactly what BCC was destined to become. Violence incarnate. Regal preached it. Moxley, Wheeler, Claudio, and then Danielson too preached it. I honestly thought after that amazing promo that he was going to stay babyface and eventually feud with MJF for the world title and then finally get it. Since after that amazing match, who else do you put against MJF? But after what happens here, he goes down to number 5. That piece of fantasy booking is out of the window. If he's going to be world champion, he's going to be winning it as a heel. So yeah, I love how this whole thing was done. He offers the hand to Kenny Omega. Kenny gets up, pats Danielson on the back, tries to go for Wheeler. And usually the crowd reactions should give away what's happening. If a betrayal is about to happen, people will usually make you hear about it. But here, the loud crowd reaction can be mistaken as this huge pop for an epic team up between two of the best wrestlers in the world, Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. So this effectively masks the heel turn from Danielson. So crowd cheer, Kenny sees this and hears this visibly, but he's focused on Wheeler and then something epic just happened. So it's part of the course. But then Danielson right away, as Kenny turns his back, sets up for the Busaiku knee, hits it, and then they quadruple team him. They beat the shit out of Kenny Omega. Danielson holds on his nose as he's doing this label lock as the other guys are stepping on him. And I never realized how much of an Avengers level threat BCC are. You basically have 3 world champions. They are your strongest faction because any other trio will just be overpowered by the amount of strongly booked wrestlers in this faction. JAS's big 3, yes, it has Jericho, but when he tags out, the other 2 in Sammy and Danny are very pinnable. If you have the Elite with Kenny and the Bucks, Kenny will hold off any one of them 1v1 just fine. But when he tags out to the Bucks, they're going to be taken out. BCC with their strongest trio can just tag in each other and they will be dominant for the whole match. I don't think even with the Bucks here that the Elite could withstand BCC. They are still in a disadvantage. If it's Hangman, Kenny, and the Bucks against Danielson, Claudio, Mox, and Wheeler, the Elite are still the underdogs. So I think it's not going to pan out that way. I think both the Bucks are going to take a break since Matt has a partial tricep tear and he needs a lot of rice, that's an acronym, in order to come back. He doesn't need to have surgery since it's just partial. So my prediction for this is that Hangman's obviously going to join. It's going to be Kenny, Hangman, Konosuke Takeshita, and Kota Ibushi or Eddie Kingston. It depends. If Kota re-injured himself, then it's going to be Eddie Kingston, but probably it's going to be Kota Ibushi. Because it only makes sense. Danielson, in the end, cherry on top, told Kenny Omega that he's everything that's wrong with the wrestling. I think they're going to cite all of the DDT stuff. And it only makes sense that, along with Konosuke Takeshita, they're going to bring in Kota Ibushi as well, who was their former guy. So you have 3 former DDT guys and Hangman Page against an Avengers level threat. And this feud can go on for months. Even up to Blood and Guts. So yeah, great feud. I love that the Elite are on top of AEW again, facing off against an Avengers level threat. And we're so close to a Golden Lovers reunion in America. So after this is the FTR and the Guns recap video and the Guns promo. And the Guns cut a great chill promo. Like, there wasn't screaming here as they usually do. They insert some real life into this feud by talking about how Dax is complaining online. They even like crash FTR's podcast thing live with the fans. And I think this feud has had a sick build. I think they should have been held off till the pay-per-view. Since at this point, Tony's basically serving the Guns to FTR on a silver platter. I think they've resigned. They're not leaving. Like, how are you featured this much on TV in like a major feud if you're not resigning? In a tag team title program, no less. But it did happen with Cody. It did happen with Danielson, I think, on his way out of the WWE. And a case could be made that this is happening on TV. I don't know, I'm kind of like 70-30 on this. Dax has done to work us well. Like, he even got fans to hate him. But after that thing in the live podcast, like, that's just like moving it up to about 90 to 95% that FTR are resigning. So after this is Orange Cassidy versus The Butcher for the All-Atlantic Championship. So this is the most poorly booked match on the show because The Butcher is a cool wrestler. I like him in the Blade as a tag team, but he's a tag wrestler. He wasn't built for this match enough. They're even like so cold as a tag team. Like, when have they won on TV? And you're putting him against an overly exposed Orange Cassidy. You could have used anyone else in that roster, like a Dralistico. Same goes with Jungle Boy. With like Matt Hardy, you could have used anyone else. Or like a Buddy Matthews would have been nice. Or hell, you could have moved this match to Rampage. Like, just put Orange against the threat. Build it up and not just like have it every week. Because this felt like a Rampage match for me. The in-ring was solid. Like, the two most positive things I have for this are that, one, Orange is starting to become a lot more serious, so I don't think he loses the belt. He's like losing some of like the Orange Cassidy character. He's becoming more angry. And number two is that the Butcher is being elevated. Hopefully this is the start of like something great for the Butcher and the Blade. Since they're a cool looking tag team, they're all right in the ring. Just like give them something more exciting. And they're like super loyal. I don't think they'll ever leave. So yeah, do something with them. Feud them with FTR when FTR win. But yeah, this match was just like run-of-the-mill, usual structure. But there was a fun story regarding like Orange trying to go for a beach break but always ends up in a powerbomb and then escapes that powerbomb by doing like eye gouges and like spin out stun dog millionaires. This actually exceeded my expectations, but this is not the place for the match. So the top two spots of the match are the beach break struggles. Number 2 is the one that he turns into a stun dog millionaire, and then number 1 is the one from a clover leaf to a powerbomb to an eye gouge escape. So yeah, fun match, but not that good for the ratings. So yeah, after this is the Jade versus Taya video package, and it's a fun feud about trademarks and legal mumbo jumbo. This needs to like progress to be more personal, but as for now, this is an okay start to the feud. It's about the use of the finisher that they both share, and it's okay, like really. I think Jade's improved on the mic a lot, but she's been champion for too long. She's been cold as champion for too long. And Taya is like a believable, like thick person, well built enough to like take out Jade. So after this is Juice Robinson versus Action Andretti in like this one-sided video promo. And the longer Juice is without Bullet Club, the more I think that it's not gonna happen. This all makes sense since Action is Ricky Starks' friend. They're allies. But I don't think the build of this feud is like epic enough for Ricky Starks, who's being positioned as a main eventer. And I think it's very disappointing given like the hints at the start, like Juice coming out to Bullet Club and then bait and switching us when there's no Bullet Club, it's just Juice. But schedules are freeing up, and I think it could only help Impact if they send in Chris Bay and Ace Austin with Kenta from New Japan. And then if they don't want their guys to be like completely destroyed, they can send in Motor City Machine Guns. It'll only bring more eyes to Impact, and it'll make this feud better. So please, do it. So after this is Willow Nightingale versus Ruby Soho, and this is another match that could have used more time. How Willow wrestles at the start, I think, is how Jeff should have dealt with Kenny a while ago. It should have been power, power, power. Because that's how the start goes. Willow just like wails on Ruby, but then the story plays in where Ruby feigns friendship, and then she uses this to take advantage of Willow and then gain control for the first time in the match. Slow moments in this match I think were pretty good, mostly because of MVP of the match, Willow Nightingale, because she sells the shit out of like all of Ruby's offense the same way that actually Ruby does, with like these animalistic moan screams to sell. So aside from like having this naive Willow story, we also have Willow trying to do a Death Valley driver and then like having it be countered every time until finally, like after Ruby tries to go for a no future, Willow like catches her mid-air and then Death Valley driver. Like this match was pretty tight. The climax was alright. It wasn't like epic main event level kind of climax, but it was okay. And like the cheating from the rest of the outcasts were concealed and effective. And if it's not concealed, it can't even be considered cheating because it's just tapping on the ropes to make Willow lose her balance. The crowd initially didn't care, but Willow and Ruby eventually managed to get them to like 70%. They were invested until the finish, like especially when Ruby kicks out of like 2 no futures. They started coming to life. But for me, I was disappointed with the ending. Like a cheat ending for a roll-up. I honestly think since they're pretty much even, that it would have been okay to have Ruby just flat out beat Willow. Or like she cheats by herself instead of having someone else outside cheat for her. So yeah, top 3 spots of the match. Number 3 is the top rope no feature. It's only top 3 because I think it does like a lot of damage to you, since Ruby basically takes a high bump in order to do this. She then does another one and then goes for a pin. Number 2 is the Death Valley driver that's set up. It's teased and teased and teased until it's hit. And then for the number 1 spot, it's the one that got like the loudest reaction, and it's the pounce. It always gets a large reaction, and this one was especially good because Ruby bounces off the ropes and then back to Willow. So the finish is Willow being distracted, roll up, Ruby gets her foot on the ropes, Tony holds on her feet, and then she wins the match. It's alright, it's TV undercard, pay-per-view undercard. I think it's number 3 best match of the night. Just needed like a better ending and a better crowd. The post-match is a save by Sky Blue and Riho. And that's why I said earlier that they were coasting, because nothing's progressed. No one's taken out, no one's being added. It's just like 3rd week in a row that someone goes for saves. So yeah, Jamie then goes for the save, she takes everyone out, and then she faces off with Riho for her match next week. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but something needs to happen. Like, have the outcasts be actual threats to Jamie, rather than having them all be like taken out and eventually be Athena's like henchmen. Because Athena is the strongest booked among all of them, I think, if she joins. Of all the possible members, it's either Mercedes or Athena. So yeah, after this is Hobbs' promo, and the man can cut a promo. It's a simple hype-up promo where he lists down everyone he's beaten. It's a reminder that he's there, and that's pretty much it. So for the main event, it's Adam Cole versus Daniel Garcia. So Adam Cole is over as hell with a live audience, but apparently not the people at home, because viewership dropped at this point. And I actually believe that Kenny should have main evented. This should have opened the match. Like, the crowd's energy along with the excitement of a returning Adam Cole would have been enough to keep 1 million viewers at the start, but it won't bring them back. Adam Cole is not Kenny Omega. And Daniel Garcia has such a terrible theme song and such a cringy, funny, terrible pose. But damn, is he a good a sports entertainer. Okay, so seeing Adam Cole, now with the ring gear and in-ring, this is one of the only things that I agree with that his detractors say, mostly Jim Cornette and his fans. Because Adam Cole has everything. He has the moveset, he has the awesome gimmick, the finisher, the promo skills, the theme song, like the full package, the charisma and the girl even. But it's just that physique. He's slightly more defined than when he was facing Joe, but he's still not at the level that he should be in. Like, especially if you're like portrayed as like a high up card person, you should at least be thicker than Daniel Garcia, because Garcia is thicker than him. I think Andretti is also thicker than him. Ricky Starks is getting thicker. A lot of dudes in the roster that is his size are more defined. And why is Adam Cole not getting to that level? It's his job. That's the only thing missing that's holding him back, I think. If the other guys can do it, you should too, Mr. Cole. But the match itself was really good. It was a storyteller. It centered around Adam's head. And after the first pile driver, Cole is weakened and then he sells the shit out of his head. And this isn't the only time. Like, my top 3 spots of the match might be whenever this happens. And to add to that, the downtimes are so good because we get submissions and then we get like these landings by Adam Cole on his head where he makes a sound. They reach a higher gear than Kenny and Cobb did, but throughout the match, Adam showed his ring rust. The climax again was fun though. So yeah, for the top 3 spots of the match, number 3, I think is the hair step arm lock. I don't know what this is called, but it looked cool. Number 2 is the butterfly pile driver. The move itself looks good, but the sell after isn't as good as the first pile driver. And number 1 spot is the Panama Sunrise that's countered into the Dragon Slayer by Garcia. So the finish is super kick, Panama Sunrise, the boom, Adam Cole wins. This is second best match of the night, but it has some flaws. Again, the in-ring rust. It has a better climax, but it could have been more. It's close to reaching TV main event pay-per-view undercard, but the match itself just isn't as tight as Omega versus Cobb. But the execution of the story was really good. There was the right amount of working on the injured body part, unlike in Kenny versus Cobb. But that one was just a very tight, well-structured, and I think better sold match. Because Cole doesn't sell enough for that devastating butterfly tiger driver. Butterfly pile driver. Like, Kenny even sold till after the match. That was like so fucking good. So post-match is Cole and Britt kiss in the ring. We get confetti. And this is all to set up All Access, which I'm also going to review. But that might come after Super Card of Honor. So the post-match is Jericho picks up his son, who's like hurt, and then teases a feud with Adam Cole, and that's how Dynamite ends. So non-wrestling segment-wise, this was a really good Dynamite. But if you add in the matches, it brings the score down to just average. None of the matches really stand out. I think Kenny versus Cobb under-delivered. It wasn't like a pay-per-view only level match like what we had with Vikingo, or like Danielson's trials against MJF. Adam Cole's return was okay, but it wasn't the best match ever that you would remember, and it tanked ratings. So yeah. So I guess that's it for my review. Next week's Dynamite is looking more promising, and stakes are higher. Hopefully the rest of the matches will get either progress feuds or be bangers. So yeah. Tune in next week for the review. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.